I kissed my boss, who turned out to be my biological mom. To keep things simple, let's call me Janet and her Bess. Growing up, I always knew I was adopted out of foster care. My parents, M48, F51, couldn't have biological kids, so they decided to foster. My sister Wendy, 28F, and I both became what people call foster fails, when foster kids become permanent family members. It's something we laugh about in our house, comparing it to how we ended up with 3 cats in the same way. We're all just strays who stuck around, Mom likes to say with a chuckle. Unlike my family, I've always been the athletic one. I'm into rock climbing, hiking, martial arts. I'm working toward my Taekwondo belt, and I lift weights. None of that is on Wendy or my parents' radar, but we've always bonded over books. I still vividly remember the 3 of us, little girls tucked in beside Mom as she read Watership Down or Shardik to us. Our family was quirky, but it was ours, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even now, despite our differences, we're a tight-knit, loving tribe. But life as a former foster kid came with its ups and downs. I went to our local state university, just like Wendy, with my parents' help. I played lacrosse and met my now best friend Andrew, 25 who later became my boyfriend after my then-girlfriend moved to Alaska and left me in the dust. Eventually, I landed a job at a bank, where I mostly do tedious work like filing and processing paperwork for senior analysts. It's not my dream job, but it pays the bills, and Andrew and I have been planning to move in together. That's when Bess entered the picture. She joined our office a little over a year ago as the head of the division, managing investment accounts and trusts. We didn't meet right away, but when I was assigned a mind-numbingly boring project involving old account records, she became my go-to contact. Despite the tedious nature of the work, we clicked instantly. We bonded over shared interests like hiking and rock climbing, rare finds in a corporate office. I was impressed that she not only knew who Alex Honnold was, but shared my opinion that he's not just a rock climbing legend, but also pretty easy on the eyes. Over time, we became more than just colleagues. Bess wasn't exactly my best friend, but we had this unspoken connection. I became one of her trusted people at work. She even started confiding in me after her husband, Dave, 44M, passed away from cancer last year. While she was on leave, I'd check in on her, drop off groceries, or just stop by for a coffee and chat. She has a strained relationship with her parents, but since Dave's death, they've been trying to mend things. I remember when I met her mom for the first time. She kept staring at me, asking if we'd met before. I brushed it off, joking to Andrew that I'm hard to forget when you're built like a really hot dump truck. He agreed, which is one of the many reasons I adore him. After Bess returned to work, things between us deepened. We became gym buddies. She needed an outlet for her grief, and I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable around the gym's usual crowd of meatheads. We also started hanging out more, talking not just about work, but life in general. I learned that Bess falling out with her family was because she got pregnant at 15. Raised in a strict Catholic household in 90s Massachusetts, her family pressured her into giving the baby up for adoption. She ran away, lived with her grandmother, and rebuilt her life from scratch: college, career, marriage. She regrets never having another child, and now, at 40, she's convinced her time is past. That hit me harder than I expected. I'd never thought of Bess as lonely until then. 2 years ago, Wendy and I decided to do those DNA tests with 23andMe and Ancestry, just for fun. We've always been curious about our roots. Wendy found some half-siblings and interesting tidbits, but I came up empty. I still check the sites occasionally, just to see if anything pops up. Then, yesterday morning, everything changed. I was having a typical Saturday, making toast, getting ready for a run, and scrolling through emails when I got one from 23andMe. "You have new relatives." It was the usual automated message, but when I clicked in, I noticed that the names matched those of Bess's parents. I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe they'd recently signed up, but as I ran, the idea started gnawing at me. Bess and I do share similar facial features: oval faces, sharp chins, broad jaws. Her eyes are blue, mine are green. But who knows what's under all the dye we both use? And we're both active, adrenaline junkies in a way that feels almost genetic. Then there was her mom's odd reaction when we met. When I got back, Bess called, and I mentioned the DNA match. At first, she seemed curious, even casual, but when I told her about the names, she got really quiet and asked me to send her a screen. I did, and she promised to call me back. The next few hours were surreal. I just wandered around in a daze while Andrew tried to console me. I wasn't exactly upset, just bewildered. Could Bess actually be my birth mother? 3 hours later, she called again, asking if I could come over. I brought Andrew along because I was too rattled to go alone, and she agreed. When we arrived, Bess had boxes of old records laid out on her kitchen table. She explained that in Massachusetts, you can request adoption records, and she'd done that years ago. She knew her baby had been adopted by a couple in North Attleboro. I called my mom, who confirmed that after my biological parents died in a car crash when I was 2, I ended up in foster care. They had no other family, and I was their only child. We sat there, staring at those boxes in stunned silence. Bess tried to hold back tears as she showed me pictures of a baby girl, pale with dark eyes. Could it be me? It felt surreal, like staring at a ghost from a life I never lived. We decided to get DNA tests, the official kind. The results will take a few weeks. Until then, we're in this weird limbo. I'm terrified, not just about what we'll find out, but how it will affect everything. I love my adoptive parents. They are my real parents in every way that counts, and I don't want them to think I've been searching for something better. They gave me a home, safety, and love when I needed it most. But now, I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, not sure if I should leap or back away. And then there's Bess. We've built this friendship, this connection that feels safe, yet I can sense how desperately she wants this to be true. I'm starting to see the depth of her pain and longing. She lost her child, never knowing where she went or if she was okay. But what does that mean for me? Can I transition from friend to daughter, just like that? Do I even want to? We're getting the cheek swabs done on Wednesday. Until then, I'm left wondering if this revelation will bring us closer or tear us apart. I took the day off work. Pretty sure my boss will understand. The day finally comes when the DNA results arrive. Bess invites me over, and once again, we find ourselves in her cozy kitchen, but this time, the atmosphere feels completely different. A heavy silence fills the space as she carefully opens the envelope. I can see her hand trembling slightly, and it becomes even harder for me to breathe. Conflicting emotions battle inside me. I'm afraid of being her daughter, yet a part of me is terrified of losing what we already had. "It's a match," she whispers after reading the results. Tears break through her voice, and in that moment, I realize how much she's been waiting for this, and how I now feel something similar. I don't know what to say, so I simply hug her, feeling how she holds on to me a little tighter than usual. That touch stirs something inside me, a quiet voice I've been trying to suppress, reminding me that this woman is not just my boss and friend. What if our connection had been different, if we had met under other circumstances? Maybe we could have been something more. When the DNA results confirmed our relation, a heavy silence fell over the room. Mixed emotions swirled within me, relief that everything was now clear, and anxiety about how this knowledge might change things. Bess sat across from me, her eyes filled with tears. Though they didn't fall, she, like me, was still processing what had just happened. I don't even know what to say," she murmured softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "For so many years, I tried to imagine what you might look like, how your life turned out. And now you're here, right in front of me, and it's not just a coincidence. It was hard for me to find the right words, too. I felt a mix of emotions: love for my adoptive parents, respect and friendship toward Bess, and that subtle feeling that had been nagging me since we first met. She had always been more than just a mentor or a friend to me, and now I couldn't ignore what I was feeling. I reached out and gently touched her hand. Bess squeezed mine in return, and the warmth of her touch made my heart race. Her gaze softly traced the lines of my face, as if she was trying to memorize every detail, and in that moment, something invisible but undeniable passed between us. I realized she felt it too, that strange mix of closeness and something more. She leaned in slightly, and before I even had time to think, my lips brushed against hers for a brief moment. It was a light, almost weightless kiss, something between an impulse and a conscious action, filled with tenderness and confusion at the same time. It lasted only a second, but in that instant, time seemed to stand still. When our eyes met afterward, I saw the same question in hers that was spinning in my mind. What now? But instead of answers, I felt only warmth and calm. That kiss wasn't a promise or the start of something more. It was just a moment of acknowledging that there's a connection between us that doesn't fit into the usual boundaries. Bess smiled softly, and I returned her smile. We both knew that a long journey lay ahead, one of figuring out what all this means and how our relationship would evolve. But whatever happens, one thing was clear. I had found someone who had always been there, even if we didn't know it before. As I was leaving her home, she hugged me tightly goodbye. In that embrace, I felt both the closeness of a mother and the warmth that arises between people whose souls have crossed paths and can no longer ignore it.